Welcome to Live Free. I'm Angela K. Austin. Together, we'll discuss books, we'll explore the world, and we'll do it with some of my closest friends. And hopefully, we'll make new ones along the way.
Hey everybody, this is Angela K. Austin, and today I am here with Zena Wynn. Say hi to everybody, Zena.
Hey everybody.
All right, so anybody who is out there in this indie publishing game, who does not know Zena Wynn? Zena has been publishing since what, Zena, like 2006,
2007 is when I started, and my first book came out, I think 2008.
Yeah, see, she's been out there in this game for a long time. And I wanted to ask Zena to come and talk with us today for so many reasons. But one of those reasons is because of the fact that Zena shares her platform with so many of us, you know, across these years. And she's done things like the Swirl magazine. Of course, she has her Facebook groups. And one of those Facebook groups is about the self-publishing industry and helping people who are people of color learn about how to get better at this whole game. So how could I not invite her to come and join me today, right? So today we're going to talk about Zena. We're going to talk about her books. We're going to talk about her Facebook groups. We're going to talk about why she even shares her platform with other people, right? Because nobody has to, but she chooses to. All right. So before we get into all that, Zena, tell everybody who you are and why you write and what you write. And we'll get more into your individual books later, but tell us who you are and what you write and why.
Okay, so I am a romance writer. I don't really like the tag of interracial writer or paranormal writer or all the little limitations that we put on writers. I write romance. And I basically got started in it because I love paranormal, especially shifters and vampires. And at the time when I started, I couldn't find them anywhere, not like I wanted to. And then a friend of mine, a reading buddy, introduced me to Alora's Cave in ebooks. And all the books that I was looking for was there. So, and I had always wanted to write, but when I checked into the gatekeeping, the agents, I was like, I can't do that. But after I read so many ebooks, I was like, I think I'm gonna give this dream a try again. And I wrote a chapter, gave it to my friends, and they were like, who wrote this? Did you buy the book? And I was like, I wrote it and no, I'm not finished with it. And he was like, you have to. So that's how I started.
It's so interesting that you mentioned Alora's Cave. I mean, guys, there have been so many small press or digital press publishers that have come and gone, you know, but no matter what kind of happened to those publishers, the thing about it is that for so many of us who were trying to get into this game in the beginning, they were our way in, right? You know, I've had like 3 publishers, you know, over the last so many years. And, you know, it's interesting when I think about it because we all tried that traditional route, like you said, Zena, the gatekeepers. But it was very interesting, you know, 13, 14, 15 years ago, they just weren't looking for original, and I shouldn't say that, you know, maybe they just weren't looking for the voices, the stories that we were telling. But now the industry has gotten so much more diverse that they are starting to try, you know, to open that up, you know, and they're kind of plucking out some of the indie authors who have built these platforms and have these audiences. They're starting to pay attention to us, but not still, there's still so much to go. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
So there's a long way to go. But Zena, you've been doing this for so long. What kind of changes have you seen over the years that you've been in this game doing this? You know, not just with traditional publishing, but just in indie publishing. What have you seen? What do you see some things that you really like? You know, some stuff you don't like?
When I first started, I went through, like you said, the small indie press, and it was kind of ironic because back then the big four of the indie press for romance was Allures Cave, Lucid, Phase, and I forget who number four, Changeling Press. Changeling. And when I first was ready to do submissions, I didn't want Allures Cave because their copyright terms were crazy. 70 years plus life. I didn't know anything about publishing, but I knew that was crazy. So I tried one of the smaller ones that I later learned, they got their start working for Lucid, and they broke off and formed their own publishing company. And when I submitted it to them, the first scene in my first chapter, they were like, ew, we don't publish this. You need to submit this to Lucid. I was like, okay. And I did, and they took it. And that's how I got started. I joined the e-publishing group that was all of these publishers and writers and editors, and I learned so much about the business behind the scenes and who knew whom, and how the people at Lucid, they worked for Allures Cave and then they formed their own. It was like how connected these people were behind the scenes. And it was a really good learning curve for me, branching out in a new business, because I knew, okay, don't get out there and show your behind with this publisher because you don't know who this one knows. And you can get a bad reputation very fast. So, I mean, I would say the things that I've seen change is when self-publishing people first started about self-publishing, they talked about vanity press and you don't do that, and it had a very negative stigma to it. And now so many people are self-publishing that all those four publishers that I mentioned, I think Changeling Press is still hanging on, but the majority of them that were out there, one by one, their doors are shutting. Like Lucid's gone, Phase is gone. Everybody that I know is gone. Some did it the right way, and some did it, you hear the horror stories.
Yeah. Some of them did not go out in a good manner at all. And it's so funny. I forgot because we were both a part of that electronic publishing group, and I can't remember what the name of it was. Because
Epic.
Yeah, were you president of it for a minute?
Right before we closed the doors, I was the president.
Yeah. See, look at that. I'm like, it's so crazy how much you forget, guys. I forgot that we were in that group together. But that's the thing about it, because one of the things that you said was don't show your behind with one publisher, because that was the thing. Like, even two of my publishers were connected. One I was with, and then the acquisition editors broke off and started their own publishing.
Right.
And so I moved with those editors to their new publishing house, And so, so much of it, like you said, was so interconnected that if you weren't around when all that was happening, you didn't really know what was going on, And so you'd be like kind of, kicking your own self in the butt,
Right.
If you were just, but God, I remember those Allures Caves contracts. And I was like, life, where they do that at, but everybody was with them. And I was like, am I just wrong for not wanting to be with Allures Cave? That's nonsense. But everybody was with them back in the day. And everybody was like, oh yeah, I know their contracts are crazy, but traditional publishers, I'm like, where do you see that?
Right.
But everybody had those contracts, man. That was so crazy. But you're right. Vanity presses came along and filled the gap. And it was really, I think, because so many people who wrote, they didn't want to understand that. Well, I shouldn't say want. They didn't think that they had the ability, I think, maybe to understand the business behind books, you know, how do you get your books into the different booksellers, and, you know, how do you find good editors and all of this. So much of it was so mysterious, you know,
Right.
that people just didn't do it. But, you know, fast forward to now, we still have people trying to learn how to do this. And you share all that you know with the Black Indie Publishing Group on Facebook, you know, and then you even help promote a lot of us out there who reach out to you through, you used to have the magazine and you have the Facebook group Swirl, you know. So when it comes to like sharing what you learn, maybe it's because of you having been president of that electronic, you know, group, but what made you decide to, you know, kind of share your knowledge, share your platform, share your audience? Because you've been out there, you know, you know, digging away at this for years. So what made you decide to share what you've learned and your audience with so many of us?
I think because from the very beginning, authors have always shared with me. That's how I learned what I learned. That's how I knew what was going on behind the scenes, because veteran authors sat me down and said, this is who this is, and this is what you do, and this is what you don't do, and this is how you do it. And even when before I started self-publishing, for a while, one of my author friends was like, you need to self-publish, you need to self-publish. And I was like, I'd rather just write the book, give it to somebody, and let them do it all. And then Red Rose shut down. And I had those orphan books. And I was like, a lot of publishers, indie, won't take orphan books. So I said, well, I'm not going to lose the money on these books. I'm going to self-publish it. So I started reaching out to people. It's like, okay, I'm ready now. Tell me how to do this. And I think the perception that I had originally of self-publishing was that I had to do everything myself. I had to make the covers. I had to do the promotion. I had to do the editing. And what I came to realize is that I don't have to do everything myself. I'm my own publisher, which means I hire my cover artists and tell them how I want it. I hire the editor and pay them to edit the book. So that kind of gave me a different perspective of self-publishing, and I began to realize how much of a business, you know, writing, that's the crafty part. That's the fun part. But once you finish writing it, you need to take off the fun hat and put on your business hat and you get down to doing it.
Yeah, and you know, and the thing is like you said, people taught you, and now you're teaching other people. And you know, the thing is when you're not doing it by yourself, guys, it's less scary. You know, but when you're doing it by yourself, you're like, oh my God, how do I know I'm paying the right amount for a cover? And how do I, you know, do a trailer, and how do I this and how do I that? When you have all those questions in your head and you feel like you don't have a resource to go to, and you know what I mean, you don't kind of know where to start. It's like you know, at first you were like, oh, I got to do all this, and how do I do this? Then you're like, wait, I am a publisher, you know, and that's what you guys have to remember, because, you know, I come from a marketing background, and when I first got into the self-publishing game, I didn't even want to do it because I was like, I do it for a living. I don't want to do this, you know. I just want to write a book and I want to give it to somebody, and I want to be like, I am an author. You know, that's like, you know, Zena, that's all I wanted to do. Be like, what do you do? I write women's fiction and romance. And what do you do? You know, that's all I wanted to do, you know. But then we were at Red Rose together. And, you know, and that might be one of the publishers that didn't go out with as much grace as some of the others, you know. But the thing about it was that I was like you, I had all these books that I then had to figure out what to do with those books. I wasn't going to just, you know, toss them away, you know,
Right.
not only because it was like money left on the table, they were my book babies, you know, and I, you know, I wrote them so that people could read them, you know. I didn't want to just leave it out there. So, you know, so I had to learn. So joining groups, like I can't even remember what was it called, Ebbit? Joining groups,
Yes,
you know,
epic.
it's like it was like I had to figure out how to get those books out there. I had to learn, and so joining those organizations, regardless of what people think about membership organizations when it comes to the romance industry. I mean, honestly, I learned a lot from joining organizations and talking to people and meeting people like so I mean, I think when it comes to things like that, guys, I say figure out one that you trust and, roll with it, or even if you find a free organization or you find somebody like Zena and her organizations, but find resources so that you don't feel like you're doing it by yourself. Because I don't know if it wasn't for like friends and learning from groups, like your groups, like the groups we were a part of. I mean, honestly, because there's so many tools, you would end up spending money, $15 here, $20 there, $100 here. I mean, you'd end up being broke
Yeah.
if you didn't have somebody to share with or talk to, So now let's talk a little bit about your books. So you had all these, orphan books, you had all these things, and you took that plunge, started doing the self-publishing. So did you go all the way back to the very beginning? What was the name of that first book that you self-published?
True Mate. Oh wait, my first self-publishing book after the orphan books, or my first truly from beginning to end self-published?
Let's say beginning to end self-published.
Okay, that was Beyond the Breaking Point, and its conclusion broken. That was
Okay.
the first book. I started writing with the intent to self-publish, and I did everything. Hired the cover artist, hired an editor. The whole works was me.
And so since from that book until today, how many books like that have you self-published? And then how many books do you have out there total? But how many books have you
Oh God.
actually
Let's see. I started self-publishing in 2014, and I tend to average 2 to 3 books a year. There were a few years where, like the last couple of years, I did 3 to 4 books because one of my goals was I wanted to, usually with self-publishing, you get into this rhythm, you write it, you edit it, you put it out there. And I was like, no, I kind of want to do like the New York publishers do. I want to get it, write it, clean it up, have it ready, but have it sitting while I'm working on the next one so that I have some books in reserve. And I think in 2018, I was able to do that. So those were the years that I had 3 and 4 books published, like every 3 months. I was putting one out because I had it like that. Now I'm totally off schedule now. I can't do it. But I am 30 plus books. I think last count 36, maybe 37.
So that's like 36, 37 total finished. Does that include your orphan books?
Yes.
See, but still,
That's from the very beginning to now.
That's so crazy that you are doing or were doing 3 to 4. When I first started in self-publishing, I was like, okay, I got this. That's what I can do. I had like a whole schedule, Zena. I was like, every quarter, I'm going to do this. This will be blah, blah, blah. And then the books will be, arranged around the quarters. And then my advertising will be this, that, and the other. And this will be, I had a whole calendar. I have not kept up to that.
No.
I'm making 1 book a year out, man. It's crazy. I mean, it's so funny. You have like these goals, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I got this. I was like, that's not too much. I could do, 3-4 books a year, And then you start writing and you start promoting, and it's like you say, so many of us, when you're in the self-pub world, your only deadlines are really your own. So if you write, edit, clean, whatever, release, boom, that's cool. Then when you're ready to do the next book, you do the same thing. But when I tried to schedule it around working full time and everything else, it was like, who said that's what my life is going to be? And I was just like, no. I was like, Angela does not know. Angela cannot do it. It was hilarious. But now I'm trying to get back on that kind of a schedule. It's so crazy. But you know what, Zena, I don't know. What's so do you write full time now? Are you with this schedule, do you write full time or do you still do other work?
I work for city government. I just had my 20-year anniversary there, so I have a full-time job. I have a busy family, a busy church life. So I drive my betas crazy because I'm a pantser.
Yeah, me too.
And you know how you have emotional eaters? I'm an emotional writer. If everything outside is going crazy, I can't sit down and write.
Neither can I. Yeah.
Then I'll have periods where it's flowing and I'm pushing it, and every time they turn around, I'm posting a chapter, and then sometimes it's crickets. There's nothing. They're like, hey, you writing? I'll be back, y'all.
It's so funny because when you're saying that you're cranking out that many books, I'm like, wait, is Zena like writing full time now? I mean, honestly, I am that same kind of person. I was talking with a friend, just the other day, and I was like, when the world is crazy, it gives me a little bit of writer's block, and it's hard for me to write through it. And I truly wish that I was one of those people who could kind of like compartmentalize in a way where I could, put the noise of the outside world on freeze,
right,
and go into my writing. But usually that's when I'm picking up everybody else's books. I'm like, okay, what's out there? Like, let me get away from everything, So it's so crazy. I can't believe that you're cranking out that many books around work, family, and church. So how do you schedule that? How do you make that happen?
I don't really schedule, and I have varying lifts. My books are varying page lengths, so those authors that put out 2-3 books a year and they're like 90K plus, kudos. I don't know how they do that. So I may have, like, the book that I just put out, I think was about 45. The one that I released in November was part of True Mates. It was about 50, 60. Okay. I'm working on one now that I want it to be short, but it's not cooperating. So I'm just like, we'll see what happens as it happens. And then I have one in the hole. There's a 3-book series that I'm working on. I want to try my hand at, it's not dystopian, it's more post, I can't pronounce it. I can spell it, but thank you.
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to do an experiment to see what the results would be if I had 3 books ready to go and I rapid release them. Like a book, release it 2-3 weeks later, release part 2, 2-3 weeks later, release the 3rd one. All 3 independent books, but in a series. I have book 1 done, 2 a really good start on, and 3 I got maybe the first chapter done. But then my mind went that way and I started working on something else. So
see, I'm gonna tell you guys, that's the life of being self-published, because when you don't have anyone telling you that you have like a necessary deadline, it's like, I have a project that I started 2 years ago, Zena. 2 years ago, people. That book will be out this fall. Because I'm like, I stopped writing for a bit, and then I started writing again, and I just worked on so many other projects, and it's like, okay, wait, what about these books that are sitting on my computer that are, like, the book was written, Zena, it just needed to be edited, and
wow.
it was done. And so right now I'm working on 3 projects, right? So that one I'm hoping to have out this fall, and then another one that'll come out. It's so sad though, because that other one's gonna come out right behind it, but it's like, because it was intended to be, this one should have been released earlier. So it's messing up my calendar,
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's one of those things, guys. That is one of the, I think, most awesome things about self-publishing is you're on your own calendar, but it's also one of the bad things. Somebody got to make you stick to it. Who's going to make you stick to it? But tell us a little bit more about these books, which ones, because it's like so this is one of the questions I ask all of my people when I interview them. And I know it's unfair, but it's a 2-part question.
Okay.
Which book do you think, if I said, oh yeah, Zena Wynn, I just discovered her yesterday, what book should I read? What book do you think is the book that all of the readers out there who love Zena Wynn are going to be like, oh, you got to start with this one? And then, is that book your favorite? What book is your favorite Zena Wynn book?
It's interesting. When before I went to the first Kasana's group event, IRAE, well, actually it was even before that. Someone, and her name is like right out my it's on the tip of my tongue with one call, asked me to do a podcast interview, radio interview. And I went with the expectation that she wanted to talk about my True Mate series, my paranormal series, because most people know me for that paranormal series. And we were talking, and somebody called in and they said, I want to talk about the question. And it just hijacked the whole conversation. And up until then, I had no idea that the question was as popular as it is. And it's still popular. Most people, if they say, which one of my books should they read? I always say, do you like paranormal or contemporary? Because to me, it's going to depend what I'm going to recommend. Most other people, they're like, you got to read the question. You got to read the question.
So now I want to know, tell us a little bit about what the question is about, but then which one of these is your favorite book? Like, I always tell, it's so weird for me when I ask people that, because when I think about it for myself, I'm like, what's my favorite book that I've written? And for me, I think my favorite book that I have written is, I don't know, because it's like you say, I write in paranormal and I write women's fiction, I write in contemporary, I kind of go around a little bit, but it is different because I love my vampire series. I really, really do. It's like I throw in some different myth and lore. It's got vampires and witches. I love that series because I kind of just get to like sprinkle a little bit of everything in here. A little Black history in America, a little this, that, and the other. I love it, but then this book that I'm writing right now, that'll be out this fall, I actually love it. It's set in my hometown of Memphis, and I really play a lot with a lot of things that, if you were born and raised in Memphis, you know what I mean? So I feel like, I don't know. I actually don't even know if I have a favorite, or if my favorite is just the one that I'm working on.
Right.
So, or if it's the, I don't know. And I feel like I change my answer to that question every time I think about answering the question. I have a different answer for the question. So, so for you, what would be your answer?
Okay, so I would say the question is my highest rated book. That's reader favorite. And that is about 2 female friends. One's Black, one's white. The heroine's Black. The white friend comes to the heroine and asks her to be a surrogate for her because she's had, I think, 5 or 6, maybe as many 7 miscarriages trying to have a child. And the thing about her asking her friend, Gail is the heroine of the question. Gail recently, like 2 years ago, lost her husband and child in a car accident. So it's like, you've lost a child, you want me to have a child for you and be the godparent. And I really, really dig into the subject of surrogacy. And I think because once when I was younger, I looked into being an egg donor. And I was like, I can't imagine giving my eggs away and knowing that I have a child out there somewhere that I'm not connected to and I don't know what's going on with this child. So I brought all those feelings into that book. And then once Gail is pregnant, I kind of went with the Bible story of Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar. So I kind of played on that where, Sarah's jealousy. And I heard a minister say, can you imagine how Abraham is treating Hagar? Don't do this, or let me take that for you, carry that for you, because she's carrying his child. So Rashid is the hero of the book. And he and Gail's husband were really good friends, just because the women were so good friends. But he and Gail never really had a relationship with each other. It was, as far as Gail was concerned, that was Crystal's husband. And as far as he was concerned, Gail was Crystal's friend. But the pregnancy changes that. But I was really, really careful to make sure they did not cross any lines. When the relationship between them develops is at a certain point in the book, Crystal disappears. Like, she just ups and leaves. And she doesn't leave a note. He doesn't know where she is. He thinks Gail's hiding her. And she's like, what do you mean you don't know where she is? I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm about to have these babies. You need to find her. So that book has a lot of drama. I mean, I take you through the ringer. And then Gail has a love interest of her own that comes on the scene while she's carrying these babies for her friend. So, she's got her own love interest. It's got a lot of stuff. It's like a soap opera.
Well, you know what? So I have not read that one, but when you said Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar, I was like, wait. So, because I'm thinking about the ending, with Hagar. I'm like, wait. So, you know what I mean? So, but you just said some stuff that made me realize that it's going to probably be different than that. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. Because I was like, oh, I'm feeling heartbreak for. Heartbreak for.
I ended on a good note for everybody, and I got some flack on that because when I tell you there are some Crystal haters, they were like, how could she be friends with her after what she did? And how could she forgive her? And I was like, look. But if I were to mention my personal favorite book, would actually be my Nina series. That's actually my only Christian series. It's the first book that I wrote in first person. It's told specifically from Nina's point of view. And I like it because it's not evangelical, but I do get to explore my faith in it. And in it, Nina is a divorced mother of two. And she's had horrible relationships with men. So she's to the point, her kids are like almost teenagers, and she's like, I'm done with the romance thing. I don't want anything to do with it. And here comes Roberto, who feels like he and Nina are called to be together, but first he's got to get her attention. So book one takes you through their dating and the issues that she has to deal with, because single Black woman, I'm a mama, I'm the, I run this house, and now you want me to add a man to it? You want me to trust you after what this one and that one and the other one did? And then book 2 is their engagement, and I have fun with that because I have them going through premarital counseling with their pastor, and a lot of issues get brought up in that, and that whole submission thing in the church is a big thing. She's like, submit, no. So, and then book 3, I actually have 4 books in that series. Book 3 is they're married, their first year of marriage, and he's really pushing for Nina to get pregnant because he wants a do-over. Like, they both were previously married. He has 3 children with his ex-wife, but he was military, so he was never home. So he wants to do the whole thing, baby diapers and all over. And she's like, your youngest just graduated high school and mine are going to high school, and you want to bring in diapers? I don't think so. And then book 4 is, I had fun with that book because they're married, she's pregnant, her 2 children live in the house, his middle son lives in the house, and then his youngest son comes for a visit and brings a girl with him that he announces they're getting married. And she's pregnant. And I forgot to tell you, Roberto's a youth pastor, so it's like, yeah.
Why are you playing with Roberto like that? That sounds so good. I have a couple of short stories out there where I got to play around with, a few things and put my faith into those books. But I've only done that a couple of times. You have this whole series. And even when you go to your website, you'll see that you've broken down some of your genres. And, and one of the things that you had on your website that I actually thought was really interesting, because you said something similar to, can a Christian write romance? Or something like that nature?
Can a Christian write erotic romance?
Yeah. Then you put the lines that you would not cross. That was really interesting to me. It's like, have you had a lot of people ask that question of you? Have you had a lot of people who questioned some of your books or anything because of your religion?
I think what started it was, okay, so I've been a romance reader since 7th grade. And my mom was not about that lifestyle. So I was the romance reader that had to hide what I was reading. So it was a big spiritual struggle for me to start writing romance and writing sex scenes in books. Not that I couldn't do it, it was just, should I be doing it? And I remember during that time, it wasn't a Facebook group. Remember Yahoo groups? Okay.
I think we just aged ourselves. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zena. Thank you very much.
So this Yahoo group wasn't even a reader group. It was a group of women, a group of Christian women that were trying to lose weight. That I was, a part of this group. Because I am always on a diet. I'm always trying to lose weight. And I remember I was so excited when I got my book contract with Lucid, and I was sharing it with these women. It's like, I just signed a book contract. They're going to publish my romance. I'm telling them the details. And those women went in on me hard about, you're supposed to be a Christian and you're writing romance. And if you write a romance, you're writing sex. And how can you they were quoting Bible at me. And I was like, whoa. So it really, really caused I want to say a faith crisis. So for a while, I had to really think about to really settle it within myself that I was doing the right thing, that this was what I was called to do. I was called to write within certain parameters, you know. And I think another reason why I set up the parameters is because I met early in my writing career, there was a woman I met that was Jewish, and she had a lot of the same faith beliefs that I did. And at one, she had lines, I'll never write this, I'll never write that. And then remember when the male books like really exploded and became popular and everybody was jumping on that bandwagon because they wanted to make money? It didn't matter what they believed, they just wanted to make money. I remember she told me she was going to write one, and I'm like, but you don't believe in that. So I kind of added not writing books just to make money to my list.
I have a friend who is male, who's a gay male. He writes male, and it's one thing that he and I do talk about a lot. That they're just, there are some things that I know a lot of people jump onto because they're trends, and and I'm like, if you're doing something because you I don't want to use the word believe, because it's like I feel like that's not right, not really what I'm trying to say. But if there's something that you want to highlight, elevate, promote, something that you want, you know what I mean? I don't have any problems with that. But I hate when I feel like people are doing stuff because they're jumping on a bandwagon.
Right.
Because I don't know if it necessarily does like anything good for that group or that culture or that religion. Or I have a piece that I'm working on that I actually started again quite a few years ago with Michelle Prince, because of the Lovings. If you guys don't know the story of the Lovings, is a interracial couple in Mississippi, who were really had a lot of hostile treatment, and they changed they changed laws, and make interracial marriage and stuff even a thing. And Michelle Prince had brought a lot of us together and wanted us to do some books, some short stories around kind of like as an homage to the Lovings. And so when I decided to write mine, it was around religion. I had a Jewish man and a Christian woman, but a non-denominational, like, no particular sect, but it was just the whole thing of writing that. I was like, I want to be true to the religions.
Right.
And so I have an author friend who is Jewish. And so I asked her, like when you're talking about Orthodox, unorthodox, I'm like, I've been to Israel. I have this idea. I want to do this, but I don't know if I can really write Orthodox, because I don't know if they would ever marry outside of their religion, as an Orthodox Jewish person, because that would be such a huge commitment and change for them and their family. And so I really wanted to be so true to it. And I'm still working. One of the reasons why I'm kind of I told a friend of mine, I was like, I've written myself into a corner. Sometimes how we write ourselves into a corner, and I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this corner with this story. But that, so I totally understand what you mean by that, because, I think that if you're writing in these, certain things, and you have your own kind of compass that you want to follow, you do want to make sure that you stick to it, and that, you're whatever. Because I want to write that story, but I want to make sure that I'm doing I'm writing it in a way that's true to the culture and the people.
Oh, yeah.
And so, having my friend, read it and tell me like, what would you say, as a Jewish woman, if one of your sons came home, with a non-Jewish Black woman, what would you say? What would you do?
Yeah.
And so, just really being true to it. So, hey, I give you kudos for that, for, figuring out what your compass was, You know, when I saw that on your page, I was like, go ahead, you know, put it out there, let people know in case they have some questions when they, you know, in case they come for you again.
Yeah, right. That whole thing about writing interfaith, when I did Beyond the Breaking Point, I think I did more research for that book than I've ever done, because my heroine was a OB. So I had, and she met her husband, who is not the hero, in college. So I had to learn about med school, pre-med, fellowship, all this stuff. And then I set it in Philadelphia, so now I got to research the town. And the interesting thing was the hero comes from a large Catholic Italian family. So, and I did some crazy stuff with that book, because it starts out with the heroine with her husband. They're on vacation. The hero and her husband are best friends. He has a woman that he's getting ready to ask to marry him that lives with him. The heroine and her husband have just decided they're going to start a family. He's a lawyer, she's a doctor. It's time now. And her and the best friend leave to go shopping and come back in and walk in on a situation between the other two. So that night, they immediately leave and go to a hotel, and they engage in drunk, crazy sex. And as a result of that night, you know, the heroine is done with her husband, because this is like 2 strikes, you're out. First strike, we went to we went to marital counseling, we worked it out. I thought we were at a better, stronger place. It happened again. I'm not doing this again. But she finds out she's pregnant, and then she doesn't know who the father is. And the best friend, who's the hero, decides, you know, I've seen you and Philip, that's the husband name, since y'all began dating in college, because they were roommates in college. I mean, they were like best friends, bros, you know. So, and it's Max, who's the hero. He's more upset about his friend's betrayal than the woman's betrayal. That's just how close a friendship they had. So, and he recognizes what a good woman Cassidy is, and he's like, I told you after the night, if you end up pregnant, that I was going to claim, you know, I'll take care of the baby. And then he decides he doesn't just want the baby, he wants her too, because she's a good woman. And he takes her home to meet his Catholic family. And his mother immediately doesn't like Cassidy, because she's married, she's pregnant, and she's not Catholic.
Man, you were trying not to give her a fighting chance.
Right.
Give a woman a chance.
So I really had to research the Catholic religion, and there were people who were mad at me at the end of, because it was a 2-book series, at the very end, because Max's siblings came around, but his mother never did. And I've talked to people who are Catholic or who's married someone, they're not Catholic, but their mother-in-law is, and they were like, no, you wrote that true to life. Because if she's that devout, and she had her own ideas of who she wanted her son, who's the baby of the family, to marry, she was never gonna accept this woman.
You know, and that's what, when I was talking with my friend who's Jewish, as I've, you know, been writing this book, one of the scenes that I have in that book is, you know, centered around, you know, my hero's mother, you know, and it was like, it wasn't his father, it was his mother, you know, and it was based off of everything that she shared with me, you know, because, you know, I had like this idea because, you know, I went to Jerusalem a few years ago and I was like, ooh, that'd be a cool story. But I never had a reason to write it until Michelle came to me. And I was like, oh, okay, I can play with this idea. But then I was like, as I started writing, I was like, I don't think that would work. Not after, like in my head, off of what I had learned, because it was a mission trip that I had taken.
Mm-hmm.
And after what I had learned on that trip, I was like, oh, I, you know, the original idea I had for the story, I had to let it go. I was like, I don't think it would ever happen. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe it would have sold in that way, but I don't think it would have been it wouldn't have been the story that I wanted to tell because I don't think that it would have ever really happened that way, you know? And, you know, and that, I guess that's just for me because I straddle that women's fiction, contemporary romance kind of land, you know, line, that little line. So I think that would have been so much of a fantasy that I walked away from the whole story. I was like, it's never going to happen that way. And I just left that, you know, and I just went in a whole different direction. But I've still written myself into a corner that I'm trying to pull myself back out of. It's crazy, Zena. All I know is that series you just talked about sounds so interesting. Both of them, all of them, you know. So, you know, but that brings me to another question. You have a ton of audiobooks. Are
Oh yeah.
all of your books audiobooks, or did you choose certain series or like your favorite? You know, how did you decide which one of these stories to turn into audiobooks? And, you know, why? What was that process? So many people ask about this all the time. They're like, how do I turn my books into audiobooks, Angela? So, you know, how did you do this? How did you make these decisions?
When you know, as my position with the Black BPI group, actually I started with Epic, doing a lot of Google searches, trying to keep on top of the publishing industry news, and I still do that. And one of the things that I kept running across was that audiobooks was the next biggest thing. And that if you are, whether you're self-published or traditionally published, you need to have an audiobook. So I started researching how to do it, because I kept wondering how, you know, you hear this thing was produced by Tantor Media. You're like, how the heck do you get with Tantor Media? And then I learned about ACX through Audible, and which books I did first was really a money thing. I picked my short stories first because I actually did a GoFundMe for $1,000 to do audiobooks, and my family really supported with me with that, and I was able to, I think I did 4 or 5 for that $1,000. And what I did was I created a Facebook group, and anyone that contributed to that fund, I let them listen to auditions with me, so they were a part of the whole process as I was learning. But the most that I learned is when I did the first Nina book. The narrator was a Black woman, and she nailed Nina's character. I love the way she read her and everything. And she is the one that actually sat me down and said, okay, this is how I work as a narrator. This is what you need to do when you get the narration back from me. And she told me, you listen to it the first time for flow and make sure that everything sounds the way you want it to sound. Then she said, the next time you pull out your manuscript and listen to it that. And she said, I'm going to warn you. She said, before I even start reading, I go through and I make changes. She said, because some things sound differently when it's being read aloud. And I never knew that. So she said, it's not going to be exactly the same, but as long as I don't change the meaning behind what you say, that's fine. And I was like, okay. And I think I actually, in one of the swirls editions, I posted the interview that she did. I asked, I was like, can you do an interview with me, and just everything that you told me, can you put it down? She gave me so much information, and she really, it was like a game changer. It's like, I know what I'm doing now.
You know, that's so interesting, because when one year at the Romantic Times Book Lovers Convention, they had a whole what do I want to say, a whole educational series on audiobooks. And so they had people there from Audible, they had people who were independent contractors who did voiceover work, just all kinds of stuff like that, because, you know, they knew that this was a trend that a lot of people were trying to go into. And so many of us were like, well, what does that mean for us? You know, do we do this 50-50 split? You know, do we, you know, pay up front and do this, that, and the other? And it's just like any other contract. When you kind of break it down, you know, you just have to figure out what, you know, contract you can live with. You know what I mean? Like, how much money is this thing going to make? If you do some sort of lifetime contract with somebody, what does that mean? How much money are you giving away? You know, or can you just pay this person so much money up front and, you know,
Yeah.
they go their way and you go yours. So it was so interesting that I saw that. So when I visited your website, so you have how many audiobooks? Did we say how many audiobooks do you have?
Over 20. Over 20. All of my, I started with all of my short stories first. So like my whole Fantasy Island series, except for the last two books that I co-authored with someone else, is in audio. Um, all of my original shorts that I published with the publisher and then took the rights back and self-published, all of those are done, and I am slowly working my way. All of my Nina books, except for book 4, the question is in I started shortest to longest. So I just did Beyond the Breaking Point, which to date is the longest book I've written. That was like a 400-page book. But I don't do royalty shares. I pay up front because I want all my rights. And I've seen what happens. When I was with Phase, they asked us, they wanted to branch out into audiobooks, and they asked if we were interested, and we had to sign a contract, and they didn't want to do the short books. They did the long ones. Well, I told them they could do Mary and the Bear, The Question, and I think it was Tamika's Smile, which are my 2 True Mates books. The book they actually put into audio was The Contract, which was a short story that wasn't even on the list, and Mary and the Bear. Well, Phase has since gone out of business. It returned all of our rights to us, but I cannot get Audible to give me the audio rights to Mary and the Bear back. And they did a royalty share. When you do a royalty share, you are locked into that contract for 7 years. Faye said they tried to, explain. So the way things stand right now, the contract, I was able to talk to the narrator who did that, and he was willing to just give up his rights to the rest of that contract, and he, agreed with them. I can't contact the lady who did Mary and the Bear, which is weird because she did the question for me. Not the question, True Mates. I had her narrate the True Mates and I paid her, but she won't respond about Mary and the Bear. So if they are doing a royalty split, she's getting her check, and that check that's going to the publisher is bouncing into thin air because they are out of business. So it's like red rose all over again.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah.
But why don't they at least reach out and have, I'm going to say, have that money go to you? I mean, can they do, since they gave you your right? It's so interesting, because right now I'm trying to get some rights back. and I'm waiting for this publisher. I'm waiting for my reversion letter. So I'm like combing through my old contracts to see, because, since the company is closing, they're going under, they shut down their websites and everything. So, it's that, guys, this is a cautionary tale. I don't know what to say to you, because I don't want to tell you don't go with small press publishers, because there are some great ones out there.
Yeah.
But just really keep your contracts, understand your contracts, and beware. Even if you think you have a good relationship with them, like this publisher, I think I have a good relationship with them, or I thought, but I've been waiting for the books to come down, and they still haven't come down. And it's like, you get stuck in this position, because I want to clean those books up and get them out there, but there's like this whole window of opportunity. So every time I promote something, every time I talk about my backlist, there are sales that are being made that,
right.
Angela's not getting her share of, because,
Right.
she's waiting for this stuff to come down. And so it's so discouraging in a way, but, you and I, we've been doing this for so long, I'll keep writing, I'll keep producing, I'll keep distributing, but I hate that I feel like I have this kind of a black hole, of, royalties that I'm just not seeing. It's just not happening, because I have a publisher who's shuttering, who is, at least, with Lucid, I know other people who were with them, and other people, who, they went out on kind of a good, humble note, you know what I mean? But a lot of these guys, they just don't do it. They just kind of disappear, stop answering emails, stop answering phone calls. They just kind of disappear, guys. And you're like, oh, okay. It's like, you know what I mean? And I hate that so much. So just beware, guys. If you're out there and you're looking at these publishers, know your contracts. Know, what happens if your publisher closes, what are your rights, because these are things that I'm battling with right now, so know where you are. But, the fact I wanted to say, Zena, you did a GoFundMe for your audio, but how many people, okay, guys, this is not normal, just in case Zena tries to blow it off as a normal thing. If I put up a GoFundMe, like, hey guys, help me do my audiobooks, I was like, how many donations would I get? That is phenomenal, Zena, that you were able to do that. I mean,
I didn't think it was going to work. And to be honest, most of the money came from my family and like my daughter, my kids' friends. But yeah, at that time, everybody was doing GoFundMes, and I would read articles about using GoFundMe to publish your books, and I was like, that don't work. But I tried it. I wouldn't do it again. But yeah, I don't know. But speaking of that, I wanted to mention, as a Black indie author, you're in marketing. I read a lot of how-tos and marketing and this, that, and the other. And a lot of the stuff that they publish out there just don't work for us. It just don't work for us. When I was with my local chapter of RWA, they had a woman come in that New Shelves Books. They're like a marketing firm for authors. And she did a training, and she was like, you do this, 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 and this. And, I'm writing notes and stuff. In my mind, I'm thinking, they just don't work. They don't work. I tried that. That don't work. That don't work. And then afterwards, privately, I went to her and I said, I am a Black romance author that writes interracial romances. And I said, a lot of the stuff that you said, that don't work for me. And she just shook her head and looked sad, and she was like, I know. But she didn't know what to tell me.
What? She said, I know?
She said she knows. She recognizes it.
At least she admitted it, because let me tell you guys, there's a lot of people out there who will pretend that they don't know what you're saying is true, right? You know, and you guys have heard me say this before. I've been in marketing, you know, I started out in radio and TV and, you know, continued and, you know, across the years, I've worked in a lot of different industries, but I've always had, you know, marketing roles, you know, and the one thing that I tell everybody, you know, is that when it comes to marketing, for me and for a lot of people who have worked in similar roles, a lot of what we do is based off of research and data, right? Because that's the foundation for everything that I do, because that's how you know, get to understand and create a profile, you know, so you know who your audience is, who's checking for what you have. But, you know, but it's one of those things that whenever I would talk to mainstream people, even when I was submitting, you know, my books to people, having people say, oh, I don't know how to market this towards, you know, an African-American audience, or because this has an African-American, you know, lead, you know, what are we supposed to do with this book? And I'm like, you know, it's like, that's like when I turn green and my Hulk comes out. I'm like, what are you talking about, people? It's like, you know, come on, you know what I mean? You know, throughout history, guys, the African-American dollar has been so strong. Even though we represent a certain percentage of the US population, when it comes to the power of our dollar, that's why people promote to an African-American audience, because we have dollars to spend and they want them. So when somebody tells you that they do not know how to market to an African-American audience, it is not that they don't know how to, it is because they do not want to. So when someone says that to me, I am instantly offended. And if you guys see me turn green in one of these conversations, you know why. It's like, I'm gonna be green, you know, just like, you know, because it kills me. It literally kills me, because the strength of the dollar throughout history has been, you know, just invaluable to a lot of products that are out there on the market, you know, but because of the fact that people of color, we so often accept the fact that we don't see ourselves, and we will, you know, we will gravitate toward whatever mainstream thing is available that speaks to us a little bit. And because we do that, people are able to say those things to us, you know, because we never really forced them to not, until we just started having these mega, you know, blockbusters, you know, like, you know, rest in peace, Chadwick, you know, but because of things like Black Panther, we changed the conversation when it came to movies. And now we need to continue to change the conversation when it comes to books and other forms of art. So, you know, like I say, guys, you see me turn green, you know, you know. But, you know, but still the fact that you were able to do that GoFundMe, even family and friends, because so often I always tell people when they're doing, when they're promoting their books or they're doing different types of things, I tell so many people, don't count on friends and family, because you're putting like this pressure on them, you know? Yeah. So the fact that you did have friends and family who did that is great, because I tell people all the time, oh, you put a book out, great. You know, where are you promoting it? They're like, oh, my friends and my family, word of mouth. I'm like, you can't put all the pressure on them. You have to learn a little bit of something and not make them responsible for your success. This is our dream, people, our dream. We want to write. We want to put our books out there. You know, yes, you can ask them to be a part of it, but don't make them responsible for your success, and don't blame them if you fail. You know, you gotta put your energy into it. Put your energy.
I feel, to me, authors that are coming up now, it's a lot harder for them to get that exposure. Like, I gained a lot of my audience through Lucid, through the publishers that I had, and they followed me when I started self-publishing. So I had that base readership. But the market is so oversaturated now with books, and it's I like to mentor people. So I have a few authors that they have the talent. They just need some hand holding to help them get that first book out there. So I've helped them do that, but they don't have the readership, because it's like, hey, I'm over here, and they're at the back of the crowd, and nobody can see them. We're here, though.
But that's because, now that so many people know that self-publishing is a thing and that it can be considered legit and you can make money doing it, that's why so many people jump into it. But, for those of you who are like, I'm not there yet, hang tight. Because the thing about it is that if you're writing because you love writing, there's a difference between you and the ones who are here because it's like the next multi-layer marketing scheme, where they can make, you know what I mean? Hang tight, because it shakes out, if you keep putting product out there and you show readers that you are about your writing, you're about your books, and you're not just trying to cram something down their throats, have faith, my people. That's all I can say to you, because it shakes out. Because Zena, you and I have been doing this for a long time. But how many people are not still here with us?
Oh, yeah.
Don't give up. You got to hang tight and dig in, and eventually readers will start to see you. I mean, you may not come out of the gate and be one of those people. Every time I talk to somebody who is in like KU or something, they're like, oh yeah, my royalties last month. I was like, well, what? Hold up now. How much were your royalties last month? I'm like, I put a book in KU. It's like crickets for real. You have to figure out where your audience is, right? And you have to be sure that you get to understand who they are, where they are, so that you get your books in front of them, So don't give up. You just gotta get tighter with your marketing game. Tighter, people. Keep on pushing. I can talk to you forever, Zena. You guys can obviously tell by how long this interview is. I can talk to her forever, but I know you guys are not trying to be with us for like 3 hours. So Zena, tell us, you mentioned a few things that you're working on that are in, free books that you've got finished and you're getting ready to release. But tell us what we can expect next from you. What's the next thing you have coming out?
So I just released Sunday, book 2 in my, it's funny, when I first released book 1, I didn't have a series title for it, but now I'm calling it J&M Consulting. And these characters are interesting. In book 1, it's called Played. J&M Consulting is Jake and Michael's, or Mike's. They started a security firm. They're former military, I'll just say Homeland Security. I won't go into the alphabet agencies. And now they have their own private business, and Jackie, the heroine, is their office manager. So for a while, it was just the 3 of them. She came in almost on the ground floor of this business. So they've known each other for years. And Jake has a thing for Jackie, but he won't act on it. So Mike decides to play matchmaker and create a situation where they have to throw the 2 of them together. And his thing is he wants to take a case where they have to go to, it's like a private island in the Caribbean, undercover. And none of the other agents from all the other agencies have been able to get in. But his idea is that they're going to book and they're going to go in on a honeymoon. And he's like, how is that different from what everybody else has done? He's like, we're going to be a threesome. So it's like Jackie and her 2 husbands. So they would never think that, that they were agents. And the thing is, the underlining plot element is that someone, a terrorist organization, owns that island. So they just want to get in, take pictures, you know, easy peasy assignment, no danger. But the main thing is to throw Jackie and Jake together. What I love about this book is that all of my characters are in their mid 40s. So Jackie's like 45, 42, somewhere like that. And the men are in their 40s. So they've had, you know, their military career plus the other career. And this is their third career. So, and it's got, I call it menage elements because there's sexual contact between the three of them because they're pretending to be married and on their honeymoon. So that was played. I just released Gamed, which is book 2. And in it, oh yeah, their easy peasy undercover assignment in book 1 took a turn at the end, and they had to get her off the island. Like escape plan, get her off the island. She's like, I'm never doing this again. I'm not leaving the office. So book 2, they talk her into going back undercover again, and she's like, no. But so there's a little case that's like a subplot, but other stuff goes on. In book 2, Jackie and Jake are married, and they are going through some issues. So the mayor's daughter has gone missing, and she's from an Asian family, so they don't want to announce it. They want to keep it quiet. She's an adult, so they can't really like send somebody in there to snatch her home. The only thing they know is that she's recently started dating this older guy, and she's been seen in BDSM clubs. So they're going back undercover into the BDSM clubs to see if they can find this 19-year-old. But the going into the club triggers some PTSD issues for Jake. So that becomes a thing that they have to deal with. And, you know, by it triggering him, then something happens between him and Jackie, and they have to work through it. And Mike's in the middle of it all. And Jake's like, you know, I really want to get you out of my sex life.
Look, I love everything about what you just said. Now my question is there a book 3? Because wait a minute, where's Mike's love interest? Don't tell me.
Book 3 is going to be Mike.
Okay. Because I'm like, I'm not liking the fact that Mike is left out of this love situation. But that's interesting. I mean, the office manager going undercover. I'm like her, why is she there? They are playing games. Okay.
Yeah.
So be looking out for next. And tell us, when it comes to social media, we have mentioned so many things, including your website. But give us the spots we need to make sure we keep our eye on. So if you were, interested in indie publishing, where should they go? To learn, some of this game from you, so we can all do our own GoFundMe accounts, right, peoples? Come on. And where do we go as readers to keep our eyes on the books that you have coming out?
I am mostly on Facebook, and I know that is a no-no. You're supposed to spread yourself, but I found that the only social media that works is the one that you're willing to work. So I'm not on Twitter. I don't have the time to be trying to figure out Twitter. I have an Instagram, and I was amazed to find out I have followers. I still haven't figured out Instagram on my phone. I'm more comfortable doing stuff on the computer. So I'm like, how do I get my picture from my computer to my phone so I could post it on my Instagram page? So I'm hoping when I post stuff on Facebook that it's posting for both. And if it's not, oh well. But I'm on Facebook, and I've just really started when I was doing the swirl, that was quarterly. When I decided that it was, like too much work, I was like, I'm doing this for other people. Maybe it's time for me to do a newsletter for myself. So I'm taking the energy that I was putting into the swirl and I'm starting to do a newsletter. And I still do some of the same things that I did in the swirl, like behind the scenes. If you're interested in publishing, writing little mini articles on that, as well as advertising not only what I have coming out new, but other authors that are willing to share the information with me, because we have to help each other. Yeah, I mean, if I'm on Facebook and I'm scrolling through my feed and I see that an author has a new release, I'm going to put it on my page. I'm going to put it on the swirl. And then I notice that as I do that, other authors are like, oh, she's helping me, she's helping me promote my book. So I'm going to help her promote her book. So we got to help each other.
We definitely do, and that is something that that I really want to co-sign, because I do that all the time. I tell people, if I see that somebody has a book out, I'm like, okay, I have no problem sharing it, but the thing is that, guys, it's a reciprocation. You know what I mean? It's like, if I do it for you, I shouldn't have to ask you to do it for me. It should
Right.
be like but that's the nature, I think, of the community. We do need to help each other. And so you guys know what I'm going to help Zena with, right? As a marketer, come on, girl, we got to get your IG game up.
Okay.
Elevate. What? Girl, I'm sitting over here with a master's in marketing. We're going to elevate this IG game.
Okay.
And I do love my IG. I do need to, because I've been working with so many different things when it comes to social media, but Instagram is actually one of my favorite things, to be honest with you. But yeah, we can get you connected so that they can post. You know what I mean? We go hook this up, Zena. You and me, we gonna hook this up. All right, all of my people, if you are in YouTube world or podcast land, I am Angela K. Austin, and this is Zena Wynn. All right, I know you guys have learned some things today. I know I did. So if you want to keep in touch with Zena, make sure, in fact, guys, just go follow both of us on Instagram, okay? Let us know that you saw this post and be like, I'm tagging you in this because, all right? We're going to make her go to Instagram, guys, all right? But follow her, find her on Facebook. For all of you guys who are interested in indie publishing, literally, Zena has been in this game for a minute, and we've been out here trying to make this happen. So follow her newsletter, see what's in there, see what you can learn from the newsletter. All right, find her, find me. Thank you, Madame Zena, for joining me today. It has been such a blast, such a pleasure to talk to you, and to everybody out there. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you all again soon.